of head of state in public, we knew not to cross that line. And I remember when we were going to school, whenever there was a new fleet of vehicles that came to the presidency, he made sure that the worst vehicles that were almost unserviceable were the ones that came to the house. And I can't count the number of times when the car that came to pick us from school had to be pushed, to start and all of that. And there was one time, I think, Colonel Bayer was the chief of staff at the time, and he kindly offered to bring a relatively nice vehicle to the residence. And my father came around that day and saw it, and he did this walk around the vehicle, looking at the car, and no comment. And you thought, oh, no. And by the end of that day, the vehicle had been changed. Yeah, so that was the kind of person he was. Or he just did not, he wasn't someone who was an accumulator of material wealth. And I think when Ya and I were quite young, Ya comes right after me. And the gate was quite noisy. So as he would drive in through the gate, Ya and I could hear the gate, and we would run into our rooms and try and hide our shoes behind the wardrobe, because every time he'd come into the room and open the wardrobe and stand there for a few seconds. You have too many shoes. Why do you need so many shoes? When he was young, he didn't need this many shoes. So why do we have so many shoes? So it was this lecture that you kept getting, and you thought, no. So as soon as he's coming into the room, we'd run ahead of him and try and hide our shoes, because we just couldn't handle the lecture over and over and again. I still don't have that many shoes, thanks to him and all of that trauma. But that was the kind of person he was. There was always something. I remember he got the secretary to print out a long, 4 pages of words and their synonyms, and insisted that we should go through them and learn them so that we'd improve our vocabulary. Or whenever he'd come over, sometimes in the evenings, he'd spend a few minutes with Ya and myself asking us these mind-bending questions, logic and, how to test certain things, or one of these aptitude types questions. So he encouraged us to think outside the box, to stretch our minds a bit. Interesting man. Interesting.
Well, from the way you've explained and yourself so eloquently, I don't think he failed. Richard, before we wind up, I just want you to tell us one of your fondest memories of the late Flight Lieutenant General John Rawlings. Yes, I know there are a lot of memories, but just take one special one out.
I'll combine two. So you get to know the kind of person he was. I consider myself his loyal wingman. I have been with him throughout, and I was with him even in his last days. And I consider it a big privilege having to know someone like him, and also being with him in his last days. I'll end with being with him in the last days. But then there's this one incident that is very interesting. I was at home one day, we're watching TV with my wife, and here was the old man on TV doing his walk and feeling very confident. And he was a little bit more than himself, the self that I knew. So I asked my wife, what is the meaning of vanity? And she said, yeah, that's the same thing. I said, why? I said, I see vanity on the screen. About 5 minutes later, I had a call from the old man. Said, Richard, are you watching TV? I said, yes. Did you see me? I said, yes. So what did you see? How do you find me? And I saw vanity. And he said, what? Everybody's calling me and telling me I'm doing great, I look great and everything. Come over to the castle. So I drove there, and then he said, what do you mean by you saw vanity? I said, unfortunately, what I saw was vanity. The good thing was the week thereafter, I saw vanity unwinding in him. He became his old self all over again. And that is one big attribute that he had that made him what he was. Now, in his last days, in his very last days. He died betrayed. He felt betrayed. That book, that was, and the response that came from those he worked with really hit him very hard. We did our best to get him, to restrain him from responding, but it was a big blow to him. Then come the mother's death, and that also hit him very hard. And given the benefit of hindsight, his last days were not his best, apart from the medical condition that deteriorated.
Thank you very much. At least you've been very blunt with that.
Yeah.
Zane, I'm sorry I'm calling you Zane. I've been calling you that almost all your life. Last anecdote, fondest memory. I know you've got a lot, but let's wind up with something very nice and uplifting about him.
Well, he was not politically correct, you know that already. And I remember in the 90s when we first got the Defenders in the Air Force, and he was flying the Defender. Every new aircraft that arrived, whether it was a fixed wing or rotor, he just had to get his hands on it. And so with the Defender, he came over to pick me up, and said we should go flying together. And I remember my mother wasn't at home at the time, my other siblings were there, and a friend of my mom's was there. And he said, okay, let's go. And then my mom's friend said, but why won't you go with the others? And then he said, well, we're going to do an simulated engine failure. Actually, we're going to fly asymmetric. So he was actually going to switch one engine off, and we're going to fly on one engine and try and keep the plane that way, and then restart the engine. And then he said to the woman, and she said, well, if we all go and something goes wrong, we'll all die. But if I just go with her, then only one child will die. And that was the kind of person he was, just practical and honest, and brutally so sometimes. But it was true, And I remember how he'd get upset if we all flew on the same aircraft, because, he says, decrease the chance of the whole family dying and split yourselves up and that kind of thing. So he was just an interesting man, and what she saw is what she get. And
I'd like to thank both of you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. I have a few thoughts, but this is not the time for me to talk about them. But Jerry John Rawlings was a very good man, and I think the Ghanaians will now realize what a good man he was. On that note, thank you very much, and the vigil continues.
Thank you.